Hello and welcome to Music Analysis, Theory and Technique, the series where we unpack the ideas, the craft and the trickery in some of the better known and some of the lesser known musical works. Today is one of the better known ones in Scar Tissue by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. In keeping with the theme of this series, I wanted to revisit all of the classic tracks that first inspired me as a guitar player and musician and hopefully share that inspiration with you. For those of you watching for the first time, my name is Harry. I've played guitar most of my life, studied composition at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, as well as studied audio engineering. I teach, I do session work, I make videos, and I have a heavy metal band called Spawn of Seed. Let's do it. It's a classic riff. There's no denying it. It's a pretty one too. But harmonically, this song isn't that complex. Really, it's a 3-chord song. A good example of one, but a 3-chord song for the most part nonetheless. Now, the approach to this riff is something that I see a lot of people get confused by. I think a lot of people know the frets that they need to play, but don't understand what's actually happening underneath that. And that's what we're going to look at today. The approach to the riff is tenths. Now, tenths are a compound interval. All that really means is that it's an interval that's greater than an octave. And our tenths and our thirds are the same thing. It's just the third pushed up the octave. So we're going to be thinking about tenths when we're playing this riff. And we're going to look at that in relation to the chords that these notes are coming from. Now, the first chord is an F major chord. Now, we're not going to play it down here. We're going to play it up on the 8th fret of the A string, and we're going to play it in our regular major bar chord shape. And what we're doing is we're picking out the root note and then the 10th, which is that note here. Now, that's an A. Now, if we were to go up our scale, F, G, A, we're going to throw that up the octave, and that's how we get our 10th. But it's really coming from that chord shape. The next chord is a C major chord. We're going to play it as a bar chord on the 8th fret of the low E string and apply the exact same principle that we just did with the first chord. We've got a C as our root and then the E, which is our 10th. It's our third thrown up the octave. And then finally, we've got a D minor chord. Now we're going to play that as our regular minor bar chord shape up on the 10th fret. And again, we've got the D as our root and now we've got an F as our 10th. And it's probably a good moment just to pause and say that tenths, exactly like thirds, can be major or minor. And that last chord illustrates that. It's the minor third, whereas our first 2 chords were the major thirds. And that's really all there is to the riff. John adds some Hendrix embellishments, as well as those little transition lines at the end of the riffs. But really, in its fundamental, basic form, that's all that the riff is. And there's a podcast with Rubin from a couple years ago where he's talking with John, and they're talking about Scar Tissue as well as some of the songs on Californication and the approach to playing that John had at the time. And he cites Ricky Wilson of the B-52s as well as Eric Avery, the bass player from Jane's Addiction, as both being inspirations for this approach to playing, this sort of intervallic approach to playing. And he mentions Summertime Rolls. Where you can see there is that exact kind of intervallic approach to playing. And that's a great song, maybe one we'll do on the channel in the very near future. But interestingly enough, this style of playing, this approach, is something that's dotted throughout the Californication album, as well as really become a mainstay in the Chili Peppers style. John and Flea often outline harmonic chord progressions, these changes without playing the entirety of the chord, and it's sort of become a unique approach to music that they do a lot. And that's all for today. As always, if you've gotten some value out of the video, a like and a subscribe do go a long way in helping the channel. I hope you've had some fun with this classic riff. If you'd like to find some more music, we have more videos in this series on the channel. I also have a series on jazz guitar as well as a heavy metal covers series. Or if you want to check out original music, then see the Spawn of Seeds socials. All the links are in the descriptions and on the channel page. As always, happy playing, and I'll catch you in the next one.